Hi, everyone. It's so nice to have everybody here. We've got lots of folks in the studio and folks joining us online. Thank you for your patience. I think all of you know that this school about technology is not luckily making things with our hands is. We're so excited to have Naama Levit with us tonight. She's a jewelry artist, a material maker, and an educator. She makes jewelry, objects, installations, and performance. Born in Jerusalem, Israel, she received her BFA with honors from the Department of Jewelry and Fashion at Bezalel?
Yes.
Okay, Bezalel Academy of Art in Jerusalem, and her M.F.A. in medals from Cranbrook Academy of Art in Michigan. Naama currently lives and works in Brooklyn, New York. Through her multidisciplinary and experimental approach, she explores the intimate relation she has with objects, materials, landscape, and memory. Naama has taught several places: Bezalel Academy, the Israel Museum, Brooklyn Metalworks, and she's presented her work in exhibitions in Israel, Europe, and the US, including at the Israeli Craft Biennale, Galerie Marzee, Jewelry Week, Schmuck, and New York City Jewelry Week. She's also received many awards for her artwork. It's been wonderful to have Naama at the BJC over the past month. Her process is incredibly intriguing and so very different from what we normally see in our studio. I'm so excited to hear from her tonight and for you to hear from her as well. So I'll turn it over to her.
So, is it okay? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Shane. And I just want to quickly express how thankful I am to be here. It's been an amazing experience, and far beyond and above what I expected, not because of anything, just because of not being able to work in the studio for so long. And I don't know, I feel like I got my joy back here, and I'm really, really grateful and thankful for this. So thank you. And I'm going to share some of my process and my thought process and my work, and what led me to invest in what I'm currently working on. I've currently worked on while I was here in the residency. And I will start with a little bit of background for context. I was born in Israel, in Jerusalem, in one of the neighborhoods that is on the most eastern part of the city. It's what's called a border neighborhood. There wasn't an actual border there, but it was just where the city territory ended, and there was Palestine on the other side. And this is the view that we had from our living room window. It's a bit like closer, but it was the 80s, so underdeveloped relatively. Jerusalem was not as it was today, like it was much less built. And from the window, you could see the Palestine, which was then that part was a couple of villages and very, very light building, and the typography was like this, so that you could see through the land to the Judea desert and the Dead Sea in the end and Jordan Mountain just on the top. So very, very exposed landscape, and that's kind of like the palette. And although it was obviously not allowed to go there wasn't a fence, but it was very clear that this is where we can be and this is where we cannot be. The general atmosphere was of this, what I would define it as a careful optimism. And I would hear a lot, yeah, now you can't go there, but in a few years we're going to have peace, and then we can go there and travel the land. And also the way that Israel and Palestine is that you get like Israel and Palestine, and it's all intertwined with one another. So there was this spoken that once we'll have peace, we'll be a neighboring country and we can travel in the land and get all the way to the other side of the Dead Sea, where Israel is again territory of Israel. Peace never came, and it just got worse, actually. So the view over the years, it changed quite a lot. With Israel is occupying more and more territories, that part of the land, but also other parts in Palestine and in Israel. and he's building settlements and checkpoints and separation walls and so on. And is establishing a military apartheid over the Palestinians. Also, the character of the city changed quite a lot. I left Jerusalem about 10 years ago, and I left Israel 5 years ago. And my relationship to the place I come from, to where I grew up in my home countries, they're complicated and they're conflicted. And they're also central to my work and are in my thoughts all the time, and impact the material I choose to work with and the themes I'm exploring. About 60% of Israel, over half of Israel is land, so it's about 60% of the land is covered in desert. 60% is covered in a desert land. If you look at the map, it's like from the center, which is Jerusalem, going all the way to the south, and then where Africa starts. So it's like a big chunk of it is desert. And almost all of Israel is holy to someone, or have some sort of a significant archaeological monument in it. It's kind of a joke. We say that everywhere you throw a stone, you might hit someone's like this archaeological tomb or a historic landmark or something like that. One example. So one of the things that I'm finding super interesting is the intersection of like where the material and the emotional and the spiritual come together, which there are a lot of examples for that. One of it is like, if you just walk in the market, there's all this like religious merchandise, air from the Holy Land, sand from the Holy Land, and Jesus' crown of thorn, and a lot of different stuff. And another example is in Jerusalem, the architecture. All of the buildings are all of the exterior wall of everywhere is made from local limestone that is chiseled, and that is a building code that everyone must do. In like every building has to be like that. Every built environment has to be like that, and it is a building code that is originated like the British Empire, the British Mandat made this code. And their intention was to, because Jerusalem is so like historic, and there are so many monuments that are from that local limestone, they wanted to keep that unique character, and not have it like destroy the landscape and the look of it. And it does give a very, very specific, very special look to the city. This wall is the house, like my parents' wall. That's where I grew up, and that's the exterior wall. And another thing that is really interesting about it is that over time there were different because everything is made like that, you can really see in some places the kind of like the archaeological layer, or you can see like where another floor was added, or different techniques or stuff like that. And it's also creates this like blend between the built environment and the natural environment, because the material is the same material. I did my undergrad in Bezalel. This is the view from Bezalel. So it looks over El Aqsa. And I studied in the Department of Jewelry and Fashion, but the actual title of it was Design Around the Body. And that was something I was really interested in. And right immediately after I started studying, I was mostly interested in object and jewelry, and how they can be this like magical object that can hold time and place. And I started thinking about them as kind of like a placeholder for a lot of other things, like moments and memories. And I didn't really start working with the limestone, the material that I'm working with now, but I did started collecting it, and there was a one try, but I really started working with it when I studied when I came to the United States, and I studied at Cranbrook for my M.F.A. And that's when I really went deep. And I think now that maybe like the distance away from the country was what allowed me to work with it because of the heaviness of the material. But actually the first project I did in Cranbrook, I didn't use the limestone. I don't have such good documentation, but it was all made from like the most basic building material. I used plaster and wall putty and steel, and I did an installation that had the I was really interested in again the body and the significance of jewelry, how they can represent the body, and I was curious to see how an object can represent or reference the body without being there. And I made a bunch of necklaces that were unable to be picked up. So that was one of the example. It's wall putty, but it's like embossed, it's like pushed out of the wall. And I also carved a couple of necklaces in the wall. And I am showing this now because I feel like this will come back again later, that shape and that kind of character of the material. In Hebrew, the word to jeweler or a metalsmith is pronounced tzoref, tzoref for male, tzorefet for female. And it means like the root of the word comes from combining things together, fusing things together. It is also used in a similar way to the way the word collage is used. And I find it refers to the action of making things rather than the material or the final object. And I find this for a long time, I had a hard time labeling myself. I'm an artist, I'm a jeweler, but I don't make like jewelry. But like the Hebrew word, I find that it gives me a good, like a framework to work inside of it because of that, I think about collage a lot and about connecting things and fusing stuff together. And that is something I do a lot. Like I'm looking for possible connection between things. It's physically like connecting material, connecting shapes and object, but also like philosophically connecting places together or connecting memories. And I think about it in a very wide way, also in the way that our human experience is. It's layered and it's like connected with other things that don't necessarily match, but sometimes they just connect. When I got to Cranbrook, I came with like about 5 kilograms of stones. I had this collection that I groomed and I picked the ones that I like. And believe it or not, I really feel like I know each one of the stones that I have, because before I use everything, I look at the stone and I'm like, I feel like I really have this familiarity with them. And I was thinking a lot about preciousness, again, like the idea of jewelry, but preciousness, and how these rocks, these stones, they're so precious. And it was interesting for me to explore that together. And it's just for a little bit of context, the limestone, it holds a lot of significant and cultural symbolism in Israel. It encapsulates the notions of like the land and ownership, and it's intertwined with super complicated history of territorial dispute since like the Bible days. It's a material that is really loaded with a lot of historical and religious connotations. In some Jewish community, my great parents as well, it's believed that in order to be resurrected, like believing the Messiah would come and you would be resurrected only if you would be physically buried in the land of Israel, in the stones and in the ground. And what people did in the like the years of the diaspora, if they couldn't go to Israel to die there, they would ask travelers to bring stones with them and send, and then they would carry it on their body, like wear it, basically. Kind of like talisman, but also in the most direct way of, if my body cannot be in the land, that I'm going to hold the land on my body. And in the Palestinians also have super deep meaning for the land and for the stone. The indigenous rock, the limestone, the stone, it's the ultimate representation in Palestinian culture for home. Like the rock represent home. And it's rooted in the super rooted in the attachment to the region, history, and heritage. When I was really starting to work with the stone and I was interested, I read a little bit and I came across an article by a Jewish philosopher who's called Yeshayahu Leibovich, and he often addressed the issues and the modern, like how Israel came about to be Israel, and was very critical to how the extensive and moral transgressions committed by Israel under the form of a historic rights, quote, and like it's basically justifying ownership over the land because of the religious significance. And he used the term the worshipping of stone. And when I read it, it really burned in it really stayed with me, because also when I think about value and again, that place where the material and the spiritual kind of meet together, and it's got me thinking about how dangerous this manipulation of symbols can be. In Israel, it is literally justifying the Jewish supremacy and the ongoing occupation. So all of this super heavy weight with the stone. I also think that this material, even if no one knows the story behind it, it's so recognizable and it's so mundane and maybe sometimes even overlooked, that it has so much power just by that. When I pick up a stone and I transform it and I turn it into a wearable object, I feel like it triggers something in everyone. Like we know, we understand it, we understand the material and the weight and how it feels so well, that it's already a material that has so much in it. It touches the collective memory just by itself, just by being itself. And obviously, I feel like myself personally very attached to the material in the most simple way. Like, this is home. I know it. I don't know if you have this when you go home and you know the smell of the land and you know the sound when you're walking on the stone, what it makes. In every material would make a little bit of a different stone, and I really feel like I have some sort of a intimate relationship with it. And when I work with it up until now, it was really important for me to try and keep the stone as it is. I didn't really want to manipulate it or change it, just to transform it just enough to be wearable, to add an attachment point to it, connections and stuff like that, but not really change the stoneness of it. To keep the rawness of the material. When I left Israel to come here and study, I never really planned to leave, and it just kind of happened that I didn't came back. And with everything that is going on right now, I'm not sure I'll ever want to go back. But I have a very deep. It feels like a rupture. I have I feel nostalgic, and I miss home, and I miss some stuff about home. But I also feel I'm also critical to that. I'm also thinking, what about this place? How much about this place is really home now, or was it ever? Or what makes home? And I also think about how how I can let go of that. And these thoughts, I think about them a lot when I make the object, and I think about this when I'm using the material, and a lot of the time I use it with other material that I find. I sometimes view it as kind of building an alternative landscape or a speculative landscape somewhere, some possibility to be near and far in the same time. Maybe similarly to how my grand-grandparents wanted to keep the stone on themselves, but from a different reason. And I think about it also, circling back to what I think about jewelry as kind of a placeholder, being able to encapsulate some sort of an energy from a far place, but on me, on my, like, I have it close to me and intimate with me. When I work with the stone, and like I said, I was really interested in keeping it raw as much as I can, but still breaking it and chipping it a little bit and carving through it. I started noticing the dust that comes out of it and the colors. And I was really attracted to the color palette that I saw. It wasn't always the same. Like some stones would be pink and then their dust would be white, or some stones would look white and then the dust would be more yellowish. And I started putting it in small containers, and I looked at it. I never used it for a long time. But it really appealed to me. And I think that now when I think about the sand, and I think what I really like about it is that it's the end and it's the beginning of something. It's like it's the deterioration of the rock. It breaks down to small particles, but also with time it's gonna crystallize back into, like, form back into being a rock or something. And that time point of being like in between, or being something that is in the potential of becoming something, is very attractive to me. And I think for us as makers, it's kind of a magical material where you think, oh, this can be, it has so much potential. I don't know, excited me. And also the consistency of it, like it has this, it's heavy and it has a mass, but then it falls apart. So I think that no bodiness to it was also something that was very, very appealing to me, and creating this like full circle in my work where I'm using something in its most raw formation, but then also using it down to its smallest grain particle was very appealing. And that is what I set to do here during the residency. I brought all of my collections of sands, and I created more sand, and I started sanding everything. I turned the bench, sorry neighbors, into a desert lab, and everything is full of sand, and I'm going to need to vacuum very deeply when I'm done. But this is a little bit of like a glimpse of how I work. I'm trying, I don't try, but I try to keep a level of discovery all the time. And that's like, it means that, for me, it means that I'm constantly making things. Sometimes it's things like that are like quick drawings that are temporary. I don't know if you feel something like that too, but it's really hard for me to commit to an object sometimes. And making things temporary is such a relief. It's like, and like this one I made in the apartment, the right-sided one, the pink, and then the wind came and just blew all of it. I didn't even mean to like move it. So it's like, I don't know, I really enjoyed this kind of work, and kept going with like a lot of material sample. When I'm doing the drawing, what I'm looking at is, well, technical stuff, like how do I get the glue to the sand to stick? How do I get the sand to stay sandy and not become color? What are the colors? What do the colors look next to each other, and the texture that I'm looking at. And yeah, slowly I had more and more and more sand samples. And I also started thinking about shapes. The key shape is something that I'm using a lot in the work. It references home, but also I think about the keys as a jewelry. Like, it's an object that no one asked if it wants to be a jewelry, but it is a jewelry. Kind of like it's an anti-hero of a jewelry. And it's also a very, for me, it's like the most, the obvious placeholder. I don't know if I have a lot of keys on my chain that I don't have access to where to their places, but they're still there. And I don't know if it's because I'm afraid that maybe I do need them. They turned into this kind of a talisman, but I don't intend them to be. And I worked on the shape of the key, and I want to still keep working and exploring that. And also the blue shape and the greens. I'm thinking about tools. I'm thinking about tools that can be used with sand, but I also think about like contrasting the raw material with shapes that are very, very round and made and intentional. This is some of the bench mess. I use color. Just now, Jean-Marie asked me about the color, and I use a lot of the time like very vibrant color when I work with this this like desert palette. And I think because most of my life I saw the very low saturation color, I'm not used to colors so much, and when I bring colors into my work, it helps me see better. Like it expand my vision, or like the spectrum of the color becomes different, and it also brings this dimension of like made, or like the human dimension, and not like only the natural. One of the thing what I worked about on mostly was a sand necklace. I was really obsessed with getting the sand to form into string. I had an image in my head of a necklace on the shirt, but only from dust of the sand. So something that goes away. And that turned into, no, I have to get it to like stay, but look sand, but look this. And I did a lot of tests, really a lot of them. And also the color was super interesting for me next to each other, and continued dusting up all of the bench. And finally, one success. I got the full circle of the necklace, and that's what is here also in the hall. And I also went back to the key. This is made from sliced limestone and then carved. I'm not, most of the work, maybe just the one necklace, this one is still in the like process. I feel like I'm still figuring things out, but I'm very, very happy that I got the option to do it, because I'm already like went so far, and I just can't wait to keep working. And I am also grateful for the huge fig tree that is outside. And also something that is very much of a home. Smelling the figs is something that I recognize from home, and I'm again grateful for everyone for coming, and thank you for listening.
Yeah. So those on Zoom, we're going to transition into the hallway really quickly. So yeah, we'll just bear with us for a second. And we'll see you in the hallway.
All right. Tell us.
Yeah,
We're
so
here. Title card.
I always have a hard time editing. This is very editing. I feel like it's I don't know, I guess I find a lot of joy in the process, and I also feel like it's never ending in a way. I can keep going, but now I do know what I want. Like this is still need to be finished. It is going to be a brooch, but the background, the other side of it is going to be with this texture. And
And this is the finished.
this is the finish. Can be picked up.
Yeah.
And
Really? Wow, good job.
Thank you. It still needs work. I see where I want to fix stuff and do differently, but it's far more than where I started.
Can you explain how the process, how you made the sand necklaces, like what the materials?
Yeah, this is mold silicone that is mixed with the sand. The mixing with the sand is what gives it the color, but if it just cures like that, it will look. This is an example. It will look like this. It looks yucky. Looks like lumpy and very physical because of that color, but it looks like silicone. And that was the challenge. And the way that I got it to be looking so dry is that I roll it inside the dust while it is drying, kind of like you make gnocchi. And I roll it and it picks up the sand in such a way that even creates like bits that are similar to like clay or stone or something like that. Yeah, when I cut it, I wanted to see, because what I wanted is when I cut through it, I don't want to see the silicone at all. I didn't want it to be like a topping. I wanted it to be the material.
So what, the silicone, was it a relatively quick curing silicone? Because you said you rolled it, like, how long did you have to roll it? Like
10 minutes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, 10 minutes, and I don't know, it's a very gentle, because at the beginning it still smooshes, but if I don't roll it, then it cures not the same way. So it's and I also only have two, like my hand can only reach that much.
Right.
So I can only work in small sections.
Yeah.
That's what took me so long, but I mean, that's part of what's taken long. And this palette, the pink and the white are limestone, and the kind of like camel and green are from further south in Israel. The part of it's called Machtesh Ramon. It has this like different layers of the land with different colors.
Congratulations, that's such an accomplishment. It's just amazing, incredible that you could get it to do that. Like, it looks like sand.
And in no time at all, really.
Yeah.
And it really does present like the challenge of jewelry, because I mean, these are, I know you said that one looks gross, if that was the word used, but like these are lovely as objects, but you want them to be wearable. And I love the idea of that it like around the body, that your course of study was thinking about that, and that you're taking something that's a particulate and making it something that can be stable and then go around the body.
Jane,
Yes.
there is a question from Carrie Ann.
Oh, I see it.
Do you see it?
Yeah. So Carrie Ann Quick is joining us from San Diego. Hi, Carrie. How does the materiality of silicone play into your thoughts about the work? Is the fact that it will degrade interesting to you?
I think about it. It is interesting to me. I don't want to be obsessed. Although I think as a maker, I mean, I want to be very professional and make things that last. Like that's what we were all trained to do. but I know that things don't last, and I know that things change, and I want to be letting that go. And the fact that it's silicone actually was very interesting to me when I thought about it deteriorating, and the sand is still staying. So like that thing that we made, like in every other thing, like some material will last and some will disappear, will crumble. So I think, yeah, I think that's the element of time and time sensitive in the object. Yeah, I wish it wasn't silicone. I mean, I think I'm always thinking about what is the material I'm bringing into the world, and it is something I'm struggling with, and that is partially why I'm working with a lot of found parts and material, but I also couldn't resist it. I wanted to make it sand into a neck.
Yeah.
So thank you, and that she enjoys seeing all of our cute faces.
I have a comment and a question, if that's okay. I'm just so intrigued by what the word for jeweler is in Hebrew, because I also struggle with who I might be. And I've ended up with a metalsmith, but I don't just use metal. But smithing has violence inherent to its very image, right? You're banging stuff with fire. Whereas the word in Hebrew seems to me to have a much gentler kind of makingness to it. So I just say that as a comment. I think it's really interesting about what that means for who you think you are. And like, I want to think a lot more about that. So thank you for that. And my question has to do with what I see as a difference between your earlier work and your current work. And that has to do, I know you must have thought of this a ton already, about weightiness. Because your stones before are stones and they have weight, and you wear them on the body and you can feel them, as indeed you are wearing tonight. But these are like air that's mixed with sand. They're so light. Tell me you're thinking about, like, what does that mean for you, and what do you think about that? Like, if I would call it a progression or whatever.
I mean, it is some sort of a progression. I don't know if it's up or sideways or. I do think. I mean, I didn't think about it, but when I first made the necklace, it was so heavy. I didn't expect it to. I mean, you can wear it, but you feel pushed down, and this is nothingness. Like, it is sand, and the silicone doesn't have any weight. It is more heavy than what I would think it would be because of the sand. But I do think that the progression for me relates to the lightness. I think the letting go is something I'm much more focused on now, and also it was very hard for me to talk about the political aspect of my work before. It is still hard for me. I'm embarrassed to be an Israeli. I'm embarrassed to be part of that. As maybe like it is. I mean, not embarrassed, but I have very, very complicated feelings about it. Embarrassed is a very heavy word, and I'm trying to think about ways where I can talk about my work, and maybe even about using this material, and maybe even using this platform to, I don't know, talk about those very, very sensitive things. Which are hard. I mean, they're very hard. I never ever talked about the political aspect like I did today. That was the first time. It's hard. I don't know. It's hard because I also need to formulate what my stand is, and it is again very emotional. It's home, and it's home that I don't want to be associated with in some context. So.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. I really, really can't express enough how much I enjoyed here. Everyone really supported.
We enjoyed having you.
Positive.
I see this. Yeah, we don't want you to go.
Yeah, we really don't want you to go. We'll be here for
Days. That's your little found guy, right?
I found it here in the parking
Yes,
lot,
it's like-
and it was so crazy because I started working on the silicone, but I looked deep in to this like surface, and it was so like the color is of like it has that similar color and the texture as well. And I just, it's too good. I don't know what
It
to
is
do
really
with
good.
it.
Yeah. I also just really like this little join. Like that you're just how did you seal that off, by the way?
It's stuck.
Oh, it's tucked in there. Okay. Andrew Thornton just had a comment online. I love how the work is directly informed by your body. If someone else tried the same techniques, it would be different. It adds another layer of connection. It imbues the pieces with memory and a sense of place. I agree. It's very lovely to see.
I
Well,
had a comment.
yeah, Murphy.
So through talking with you and also listening to your artist talk, I noticed that you tend to use the word spirituality more than religion for yourself. And I was wondering if there's like indirect or direct ties to that distinguishment in your work.
Yeah. I never thought about it. Yeah. I think in Israel, maybe in the US as well, but there is an appropriation of the religious by very extreme parts.
Yes.
Indeed.
And,
Yes.
We're familiar.
Yes.
Yeah, and I come from a very like, super secular family, but with some, you know, like there is a level of Jewish spirituality, and my partner comes from an Orthodox family, so I discovered that this part of like spirituality, Jewish spirituality, but I'm calling it Jewish because I am Jewish, but it's spirituality, I think, and it's when it's not used as the word religious. Maybe one day I will be able to say, but I feel like I don't want to be associated with that because I think the religious is what's the generating power of all of that like negative things of feeling like we belong, like we deserve something, we're entitled for things in Israel anyway. So the spiritual part of it is a way that they can live. They can say, yeah, I am spiritual person, but I don't know if I'm a religious person. Well, not.
I had another question also, actually. So, there's a lot of intuitive moments in your work, and I'm wondering, like, when you know something is done, is there a moment where you feel like a connection to home, like a fulfillment, or like that connection with spirit, like that sort of thing, and like how are those things related?
No, it's hard for me to feel. I think something about object that is a necklace makes me feel more whole. I don't know why. Like it also happens.
Yeah, it's like it's clear starting and ending, or not clear at all. It's just very like it's like a closed loop.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had when I finished this, I had a similar feeling to what I had when I finished the chain. I was like, that is it. It's like full circle, completed. When other things, I never know when they're done, and I have to say that sometimes I break. Yeah, I need to work on it.
Well, and you also said at the beginning, like that you really have to feel like super inspired. Like I mean, I think every artist works in a different way, but you aren't someone who just shows up and starts doing busy work. Like you have to feel like, oh, I have the feeling within me, and here's like the thing I'm going to make. And that process is definitely very intuitive.
Yeah, I think what I didn't say is like when I work a lot and I start a lot of different things, I feel that what happens is that the material, like the object, they come out of the same kind of, you know, like, I mean, sometimes I have a thought, but the thought is very abstract. It's like a dusty thought. I don't know what it looks like. One of my vocabulary relates. Yeah, I feel like sometimes things just like, oh, they reveal themselves because I arrange them, like I put this and that, and then I'm like, that's what we want to do.
Wow.
Naama, I'm fascinated by all of the pieces that you have around. highlight all of the work. And you know, you were just talking about a little bit of cleaning out of the sand. I'm wondering if there's a connection to that with the work. Or also like this one you said you found in the parking lot. So is there a connection of space or we made that you wanted to give context to, or if you could talk a little bit more about just like the canvases.
Yeah. I don't like it when things are too clean and too gallery looking. I think it removes, especially when I think about the body is not this clean canvas, it's not a wall. It moves, there's a stain of oil on your shirt. I feel like there is authenticity more for what I think about when I start checking what is the layer behind. And it's not always the right layer. I mean, a lot of the time I'm looking at things now and I'm back and I'm like, that was not a good color. You can't see the object because of that. But sometimes it does. I feel like it's this like wanting to be to find something authentic for that object. And I also feel it relates to this like idea of thinking in layers, collage, and like this thing. It like think about it. It found me, you know. And I think I was really like I took a picture and I texted my sister and my partner. I was like, you don't believe it. No one can understand it, I think, but I mean, maybe some people know, but it's like, I don't know. And I also I really want to be responding to things to where I'm at. But not always it works like that. Like I walk around Baltimore and I really want to do things that like I find stuff and I take pictures, but the work that comes out, but then sometimes I'm like, this is so here, but it's like that background is so here because it is from here, but it's also so like, I don't know, compatible with from there.
Right.
So I think all of these backgrounds, they help me see and appreciate and like kind of calibrate what is it that I want to do, where is it, what I did.
Yeah, thank you.
Andrew says, in a way, it's like you're creating golems, forming an avatar out of the earth and creating a place to process complicated feelings and ideas, and your pieces feel so alive. Well, this work will be here for several more weeks, so if you are local, or if you want to come back and you're here today, do it. Yeah,
I have a.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing it with us. A few things. I mean, all of this is spectacular. Congratulations on the sand necklace, like truly. One of the things that really struck me throughout just watching your process and also during your talk was your use of collage, and having these photos on top of each other. So there's photos of like the landscape and then of the found objects and the sand and then your objects placed on top of them. And sometimes the objects are actually placed on top of each other and then other times it's photos. And all of these images were just so striking to me. So I'm just kind of like, it just leaves me wanting like a card deck or a book or some kind of way to like interact with even the images of the objects, because these images are in conversation with each other.
Yeah, like your presentation at Snag last year was like, it was just like so delightful.
Yeah, I started taking pictures of your slide.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, this composition is like so nice. So
Yeah, you should make a book.
planting the seed.
Yeah.
I would buy it. Yeah, and then this is kind of more of a personal question, but is there anything during your time here that you were like surprised to learn about yourself in this process?
Yes. I mean, first of all, I was surprised to find this like massive joy of working. I think there's something special in, for me, I don't know, I felt something special in the studio that really like reached and touched something for me and sparked the ability to really just work and not worry so much I am a very worried person. Not sure, but that surprised me, and I think we're always maybe surprised about the level of obsession. I got so obsessed with getting the sense of stick, and I was like, what's going on? Who are you? You're not finding a cure for it.
Yeah.
It's so important. But it's what it is. You know, thanks.
Well, bravo.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for coming out. Carrie says congrats and goodbye. Thanks everyone for coming. We'll hopefully see you soon. Bye.